Welcome to Captives Over Cocktails, the only place where we serve up complex funding strategies with a twist of lime and a splash of attitude.
We're your hosts. I'm Lydia.
And I'm Ashley. And we're here to break down the world of captives. No jargon, no fluff, just real talk about what's working, what's not, and what you actually need to know to win in this space.
So think of this as your insider happy hour. Whether you're a seasoned broker, a captive curious advisor, or just here for the vibes, we've got something for you.
So grab a drink, turn up the volume, and let's dive into the stories, strategies, and straight up truths that are reshaping the funding landscape.
This is Captives Over Cocktails. Cheers.
Welcome back to Captives Over Cocktails, where we give you the playbook for taking health benefits from boring to bold.
Yeah, so today Ashley and I are going to explore giving benefit advisors the exact script to open the door to having those alternative funding conversations without sounding like you're selling insurance.
I wish I had us when I was a producer.
Yes.
So exactly. This is about shifting the conversation from a cost discussion, pretty flat, to a strategy discussion, especially when you're in the room with a CFO or an HR leader. And we will just get into it. We're going to start with setting the tone.
Yeah, so it's all going to be about going into that room and setting and controlling the tone. So Don't be afraid to have the conversation, but you need to have the right conversation. So it's going to be a mistake that benefit advisors and honestly, any kind of salesperson, when they enter a room, it's a mistake that we make. And I think I've been guilty of it. I'm sure you've been guilty of it, Ashley, because it is about leading with product, asking questions around the product first. So if you're having that insurance conversation, hey, have you considered self-funding? Or even worse, have you considered a captive?
Yeah, like hard stop. CFOs don't wake up thinking about plan structures and products. They're thinking about budget forecasts, risk exposure, and investment returns. Certainly not the things that you come in with saying, hey, what about a captive? I think they would just walk out.
Yeah. So you want to start there, right? You are their advisor. You should know their pain points from those conversations in the past, how they've historically ran, and then their goals. So you really need to tailor that conversation, which I always say to speak to heal their pain. And so what does that really look like? So Ashley, I want to make sure that your health strategy for this year is aligned with how you manage the rest of your business. You know, we've been talking for a few years. You've been a client of mine for a few years. Yeah. I know that you're managing your business with control, predictability, and the ability to see a return when your performance is strong. So if you lead with that kind of opening, it then leads and opens the door to be able to start having those strategic conversations and asking strategic questions other than tactical ones.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Ask a strategic question, not a tactical one, because you'll get a tactical answer and the conversation stops, right? And it gets really uncomfortable. You're like, where do I go now? So here's your unlock. Stop asking what they want to change about their carrier and start asking what they want to change about their outcomes. So try this. What does a successful year look like for your health plan beyond just a single-digit renewal? Or even if your health plan was a business unit, how would you judge its performance?
Right, because that's when really you start to expose that gap between how they think they're managing their plan and then what's actually possible when you move out of a fixed, fully insured arrangement. And then that gets their wheels turning. And then it's your job to come bridge that gap by saying, hey, you know, most employers are stuck in a model that keeps costs rising, but gives them zero control, no insight, no performance tie-in, and no ability to earn anything back. That's a broken investment strategy.
Right. And then you can drop something like alternative funding, especially captives, is about aligning your plan with your business strategy. We manage risk smarter, share in the savings, and stop paying into a pool that rewards everyone but you. That's a much easier conversation. Now you're talking strategy. Now they're understanding why there's value in alternative funding. You're not just talking about a carrier. I worked for one of the big carriers, Cigna with the C. And I like, they do things really well, right? So most people don't have a problem with the carrier themselves.
Right.
It's more about the plan and where the money is going and the lack of the ability to share in that return and just paying someone else's profit.
Right.
So now let's talk about what if you've got, and that was more of like a finance, I think, kind of conversation.
Hmm.
What if you got both HR and finance in the room? You need to tie mission to margin. I mean, I remember I used to actually do tandem selling. So we had someone I would go in with because it worked really well. Like I would play HR, he would play kind of CFO in terms of like what we were talking about, because there are two different people there who value different things. So
Right.
sometimes, personally, I think if you can do it, tandem selling works really well because you've got both voices that can kind of play to each of those. But if not, you can certainly do it yourself. And you can say things like, we're not just talking about cutting costs, right? Peep that HR person. We're talking about funding benefits in a way that supports your culture and your bottom line. Alternative funding gives you the ability to invest in care navigation, mental health access, like Lydia and I talked about last week, cost transparency, all the things that your employees want without giving up financial control. So that
Right.
value prop is in there for that HR person. You've got to tie it to the people for them. That's why they're there.
Well, and you're showing them that it's not either or, and you
Yeah.
can drive the outcomes for people and performance for their business. And that
Yeah.
is a CFO and an HR win, which rarely do those both happen.
Very rarely. All right, let's talk about anchoring with curiosity and not with a pitch, because people can smell a pitch from a mile away.
From a mile away. And I think that here's kind of where you close that conversation. I know this is just a really condensed, brief overview, but you're right. You're not pitching, you're inviting them into a deeper conversation. And how do you effectively take those next steps? So try something like this. Hey, Ashley, would it be helpful to take 30 minutes and map out what your plan could look like if it
Yeah.
was designed like a high performing business unit, with levers to pull, accountability, and upside?
Yeah, that line right there, I think, opens the door to RFPs, to our evolved captive models, and to a whole new level of kind of broker client partnership, because you're being consultative. When I say that people can smell a pitch a mile away, they really can. And if you're just pushing a product or pushing an agenda, there's no authenticity behind your recommendations. And I think you have to have an innate curiosity for your client's business, for their risk tolerance, for what they're interested in doing, especially for that HR person. I actually used to call myself like a talent consultant,
Hmm.
essentially, because when I went in, I said, let's put benefits to the side. Let's really talk about, for your group, where you want to be in the market. Like, who are you? What's your identity as an employer? What are the type of people you're trying to attract? What is your philosophy around benefits? Okay, great. Like, now that we have all of that framed up, let's talk about how we get your plan there and
Yeah.
what we need to do within your plan structure to kind of attract those people to deliver the type of benefits that you care about, whether that's infertility or veteran mental health. How can we get you to a place where you look at your benefits and you feel proud of what you're putting out into the market? So
Right.
that's a much more consultative approach. It's certainly not a pitch. And yeah, I think that's the key to success when talking about alternative funding.
I do too. And, whether you're a benefit advisor in any other area of sales, you're always focused on that meeting. And whether it's a first meeting, whether it's your 20th meeting, I think innately sometimes we think about the product, right? And we think about the pitch around the product. But the best meetings that you can walk into are the ones where you do have the consultative approach and
Yeah.
just the conversation. And I know this is probably not great for me to say. I don't love leading with decks sometimes on an initial
Yeah.
conversation. I like to have it. I like to have it because
Sure.
there's some things that I want to resource. But I don't like to speak at people. I want to know what are you doing with your employers? What are your pain points that your employers are facing right now?
Yeah.
Because then it becomes less of that tactical yes, no, okay, great
Yeah.
job question. And it opens up that dialogue to really start building that meaningful relationship and that meaningful conversation where you can start to actually solve problems, and that
Yeah.
your employer doesn't just think that you are talking right at them because you want them to make that next move that's going to benefit you. So I think this is a good conversation. I think as salespeople, as benefit advisors, we just need to remember it's about relationship. It's about dialogue. It's not about the yes, no questions. And it's about solving that pain for the employers or for really whoever you're talking to. So with that, let's do a little recap.
Sure.
When you are in strategy meetings this renewal season, I know especially for those 1-1s, having a lot of those meetings right now. Remember, do not pitch funding models, frame business strategy. Connect it to what your employer does. Ask the big picture performance questions, and then tie HR goals to financial control. And then always lead with curiosity, not carriers. Know your client, know what they do, know that they're not an insurance whiz like you are. And I think sometimes we tend to talk above people to our knowledge to make them feel like we're the smartest in the room. We need to stop doing that. We have to get out of that habit. And when we are talking to people, we need to meet them at their level first. Then that opens up a greater dialogue. It opens up a greater understanding for them to tie the meaningful things of what we do in those parts of the conversation to things that they're actually going to understand.
Yeah, because alternative funding isn't about switching insurance. You're not just hopping carrier to carrier. Sure, we can get you a quote, but that's not really the benefit of alternative funding. It's about upgrading your business model. It's about what I talked about, what Lydia talked about. It's about being able to deliver value to a client in ways because you've unbundled, because you can change plans, designs, because you can get really niche with kind of your benefit strategy. Because of those things, alternative funding is a conversation you want to be having. It's not just a pitch. It's not just a product that you want to throw on the table as a last minute option, as an option that we're just going to check a box to talk about. It's certainly where the map kind of goes in my mind when you're talking about how can we better serve you and your employee population. So let's cheers to that.
Let's cheers to that. Took under 11 minutes to solve all of the benefit advisors conversational issues today in Captives Over Cocktails.
And if you want to talk about it, you call Lydia or I. We're happy to jump on the phone. So,
cheers.
All right, cheers.